Hello and welcome to Mark No Horsemanship. Here we are with Laramie. I've been calling Laramie the wrong age up till the other day when we had her teeth floated by the vet, and he looked at her teeth and she is a coming 6-year-old, coming 5-year-old, and I was calling her a 4-year-old, but that's okay. And I still said that wrong. She'll be 6 in the spring. She's 5 now, she'll be 6 in the spring, and So anyway, here we are with her today. Laramie's been here for a couple months now, and I'm behind just like I am on a lot of them, but at the same time, I'm not. And I know that don't make a lot of sense, but it takes time with these horses, folks, especially the stronger and bigger that they are. So I don't really think I'm behind. I think that the time that I've taken so far has been time well spent, and she's learning good. If y'all hear me slurring or sounding like a drunk man, I promise I'm not drinking. Remember, I sometimes preach, so I don't think I'd be drinking. But I had a tooth worked on, and all this right here is still kind of numb, and I don't even know if I can smooch and cluck to get these horses moving, but we're going to give it a shot. But today I'm going to ride Laramie for the second time in a snaffle bit. She's had a snaffle bit in her mouth 3 times. Once was on the ground, was just kind of flexing and bending on her. And then day before yesterday, I rode her for the first time around the barn with the snaffle bit. Now, when I first start bridling these things, since they're green to it all, I like to make sure that the first few times of even putting the bridle on is done correctly, and it's done with, with the horse in mind. So what I mean by that is I like to loosen these bridles up. You notice I got it's all out of the keepers and everything, and I got it really long. So the reason I like to do that is because it's all new to them, and they protect their mouths. They don't like their mouths messed with. The nature of them tells them not to, and some of them are not really fond of their ears being messed with. She's not bad, but if they could talk, they would probably prefer you not to mess with their ears. But so instead of just forcing this bit in her mouth and yanking it in there and pulling it across them ears, let's be a little bit kinder about it. Loosen these bridles up to where when you take it across her ears, it's loose. You don't have to drag it across the ears. So the way I like to bridle a horse, I always like to kind of tilt her head to me a little bit. And you'll see let me show you how not to bridle one, especially any of them really. But you'll see a lot of people standing in front of them like this. That is not correct. And yes, there is a correct way to bridle a horse. And I'd like to think that the way I bridle them is correct, not because I do it, but because it's correct. So what I like to do is get it started here like that with my right hand. And then I like to come up with my left hand, And then I like to come up with my right hand and grab the pole piece. And then I like to cup that snaffle bit in my hand, put my thumb in there, and just kind of wait on them to open that mouth, get it between their lips. And the moment they open their mouth, you'll start pulling with this right hand up here and just simply slip that right in her mouth. Now, Laramie is really resistant to about everything you do with her. Right there, got over them bottom teeth. Now that was her fault because she was clenching her teeth and wouldn't open her mouth. So I like to hold it right there just a moment, and then I like to flip this off here in first, bring it over this near ear. Now, of course, it's too loose, so we're going to get our brow band adjusted, and then I will start to tighten this up. Now you may ask, well, how tight should a snaffle bit be in a horse's mouth? Well, if you think you got it too tight, then you probably do. I have to go by feel. I really can't tell you. You hear all the 1, 2 wrinkles, all that. I like it fairly loose. I don't like it down there bumping their bottom teeth, of course, but I don't like it up here in those top molars either. So, in my opinion, right there, which, it's not too loose and it's not too tight. It's comfortable. So once I get a bridle on, I'll just go back in here and I'll fix everything up, put everything in its proper place, connect my chin strap, I like when I'm first starting to ride green horses in a bridle, I really do like a bridle with a brow band and a throat latch. I just like the way it kind of hugs their head. It fits them nice. You may have to do a little bit of pulling on them at first, and it really helps. Helps that bridle stay in place. Now let's talk about leading a horse. A lot of people don't realize, but when you first start bridling a horse, they really don't know how to lead in it. So I'm gonna go over here and hang this halter up, and if she gives me any problem, I'll address it. So like right here, I'll just wait on it. Be kind to that mouth. I don't want to go to jerking and pulling. And just remember that you do have a bridle in their mouth. You know, a whole lot of excess of jerking and pulling would get them a bad impression of a bit right off the bat. Remember, it's only the third time that she's been bridled. So before I climb up on her and ride her around in this bit today, I like to make sure my reins are adjusted. I like for my reins to be able to pick them up to my sternum, and they're just now making contact on the horse's mouth. And I've gotten pretty good at visualizing where I'm at up there, and that's too short. So I'll come in here and make sure I get these reins adjusted to where I got enough slack to where I can work with it. Now right there looks pretty good to me. Now the rest of this, I may need me a little bit of an encourager here in a minute, a little over and under. I've heard people, my buddy Dylan Engel, he likes to use a quirt around his wrist, or just hold it in his hand. It's whatever, you know. But the main thing is you want to drive them hindquarters forward if needed. So I like to dally this up on my horn here. And the way I like to do it is I just like to make a couple clover hitches and just put, this is my horse, this is the leftover. Remember, this is my horse. I like to put the horse on top, take it around the horn like that, make sure I got plenty of slack in here, or when I turn them that way that it don't interfere. Then I'll go ahead and make another one, and this is my horse. Remember, it comes around, so this side's my horse, so I'll put it on top and go around that way. So after I get that done, that makes a nice little deal. I might get a little bit more here though. We'll need it. Makes a nice little deal to be able to kind of use as a spanker a little bit, and maybe get your horse's attention. So after I get all that situated, of course my saddle's good and tight. Got to remember she's had limited amount of rides, so she still is green. And when I get up there, I'm not going to be doing a lot of bending. I'm going to be doing a lot of directing, but I'm going to ask her just to move around with this bit some today and direct her in the direction I want her to go, and we'll talk about that once I get on her. But on the ground here, I just want to remind her that she has a bridle because she's green. If I just get up there and take off and something was to happen and I need to, take up some slack in the rein and get control over, if she's not reminded of it before I get up there, it might just be a shocker to her, and you might get her head up, or possibly worse, maybe rearing up or something. So I just like to come in here and bend her around. I don't mind to bump her a little bit because she's a little bit stiff right there. She finally gave to that, and I really like that hindquarter to go in conjunction with the bend. In other words, I like her to move that hindquarter away with the asking and the pressure that's in her mouth. So, and then I do like to end it up with a nice soft lateral bend, right? I'm just going to remind her here, right there. She gave just a little bit. The average eye wouldn't have seen it, but I felt it. So same thing this way. We'll ask her to bend first. If she wants to move, that's okay. But I'd like her to bend first. If I have to just bump just a little bit, just bump. And now I'll get her freed up here and let her move that hindquarter away from me. I like a horse to be nice and soft. I don't like them to be hanging on the bridle. So we're going to work on that a little bit today while we ride her, but only a little bit. So right there, that's pretty good. So that was just a reminder that the bit is in her mouth, and we'll try to get her off that wall just a little bit, see if she'll follow me here. Right there. So I just don't like to be jammed up against walls and things like that when I get on these green horses. So I'll get up on her and then I'll tell you talk to you and let you know what I'm doing from here. When I get on these green horses, I do like to have the slack taken up in the rein right here. That way if they walk off, hopefully I can direct their head towards me and the rear end will go away from them. Just all this is just strictly for safety. It has nothing to do with this, that, or anything with me. It mainly has to do with safety. Another thing too, just go over these quick tips real quick. I don't like to get back here and get on a horse. That horse is already 3/4 of the way past me. It's gone. I don't have my hands on the reins. I see so many people doing it. So I like to come up here, cheek them just a little bit, just turn the cheek to you. I like to turn this stirrup to me and only put my toe in it in case I need to get out of it. Bounce around, make a nice, clean mount. So right off the bat, we're going to sit here and get comfortable. She don't need to move. Just go rub her, let her know everything's cool. Ain't no mountain lion, or I'm not a mountain lion. I'm not going to hurt her. She knows that by now, but I still like to remind her. So she chose to walk off on her own. So what I'll do is I'll just remind her that I do have a little bit of control over her. And I mean that when I say a little bit, because I only do have a little bit of control at this point in time. Now what I want to talk about here for just a moment before I get to riding her around, I want you to look at the way I'm pulling on her. Let's talk about a snaffle bit. It's a left or right bit. In other words, it's a lateral bit. It's a one-rein bit. You can use them to teach a horse to stop, but I advise you to spread your hands apart to teaching one to stop, and that way the snaffle bit don't hinge and pinch their bottom jaw. But you can do this in a humane way, but a snaffle bit can be one of the most, not cruelest, but it could be a pretty harsh bit if not used correctly. But there's one point I wanted to make though. When I'm asking her at this stage, because she's green, you notice I'm coming forward and I'm pulling out to the side. What I'm doing is I'm utilizing this bit for the way it was designed, because it's not designed to pull straight back on their mouth like right there in the corner. It's designed that when you pull this way to the right, that they're going to be going away from the pressure on the left side. That's what that big D-ring's for, on each side. So I just want you to pay attention to that. Again, I'm going to be going out, and it's almost like pulling that bit straight through their mouth. Not back, not too much forward, but just straight through. So I'll just walk her around right here just briefly for a moment and get her freed up here, get her moving. You know, anything's possible with these green horses. I'm always just watching their ears. This is her probably maybe 8th or 9th ride of her life, 10th maybe. So we just want to be careful. And I had a lady ask me one time about why I'm, kicking. Why am I kicking? Well, sometimes these horses that are worked for extensive periods in a pen, they get bored, and you constantly have to pedal them a little bit. But that's okay. They'll move out once they get out of this pen. I'm not too much worried about it. So right now, just to kind of shake things up here a little bit and get it going, I'm going to ask her to trot out right here. She's got a little bit of naughtiness in her right there, but not too bad. I'm going to ask her to walk out again, and I'm just going to ride her on a nice loose rein around this pen. Let her carry that bit. You can see she's kind of fussing with it a little bit, and that's okay. Remember, she's never had it in, and now she's never had anything in there, and now she's got a piece of metal in her mouth. Cut her some slack. So I'm just going to ask her to move forward here, trot me around this pen a little bit, and then we'll get to more, like right here, she wants to slow down, and it's all right, just move out. Nice loose rein. All I'm doing is directing her in the direction I'd like her to go. Right here, we'll cut to the middle. We'll come out. Wait on her to give to that just a little bit. I'd like her to move her feet right there. And just teaching her to ride around nice and soft in this snaffle bit. Probably won't get into much bending today. Maybe a little, but not much. I'm gonna direct her to the middle, try to keep her momentum going right here between them transitions. You don't want to be in their mouth too much. Now we got her trot. We really need her to extend that trot. Go to the middle here, keep this going. There we go. Nice. Now, I'll just quit riding. Take a big deep breath, and just let her come down to a stop. Right there. Now, what do you do now? I don't have no set pattern when I do things. I just kind of go with each individual horse. Today, again, I just wanted to ride her around with that snaffle bit in her mouth. But what I will start doing, for just a little bit, maybe, I ain't gonna put no number on it, but if I had to guess, maybe 5 or 6 times each direction, I'm just going to ask her to bend and yield them hindquarters and get soft in this bridle. But we'll let her get that bit comfortable in her mouth right there, picking it up, chewing on it, and just getting it situated. There's all kinds of bits out there that you can use. I just like a D-ring snaffle. It's always been my favorite. I like the way the D lays on the side of her face. Me and a friend of mine the other day were talking about a full cheek snaffle. You'll see that a lot in the English world, more than the Western world, but they're still good bits. I think I've got one around here somewhere with a full cheek snaffle. Y'all may have seen them. It almost looks like they got spikes on them on the side pieces. You don't have to have a chin strap. It's not as crucial to have a bit hobble, I should say. It's really not a chin strap with a full cheek, because the way that thing lays, there's almost virtually impossible to pull that bit through their mouth with that full cheek. I've got another D-ring bit over there it looks just like this one, except it's not broken in the middle. It's got a slight curvature to the mouthpiece, but it's just a bit that don't collapse on their bottom jaw when you're teaching a stop or even picking up on that shoulder and getting them to lift that shoulder. So there's all kinds of bits, and maybe one day I'll sit down and educate myself a little bit further on them as well and do a little video on them. So I think y'all find that interesting. So right now, all I'm going to do is ask this mare to move out right here. And I'm going to start on this right side, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my little spanker right here. Because what I want her to do is just get soft and move that hindquarter over, just like on the ground. I'm just going to keep moving that hindquarter over. Now there's where you may get a tongue over the bit, but I'm going to wait on her right here just to get soft, right there, and to accept that bit being pulled on her mouth a little bit. Give her time to think about that, and I'll do it again. Now look how easy she was to get her to tip that nose. So right here, I'm just going to I ain't going to bump, but I am going to add some pressure right here, just maybe a little bump. But I really like them to keep moving that hindquarter, especially on these horses that are a little bit more resistant. Really get her attention right here. Don't mind to kick on them a little bit and just keep bumping that mouth and asking her to get soft. Once she gets soft that way, come in here, do it again this way. This is the bad side, her off side. She's definitely a right-handed horse. So I'm just going to keep asking her Ask her to move that hip over right here. Ask her to move that hip over right there. She got soft, and she's moving her hip over. Get her to get soft and move that hip over. Right. Wait on her to get soft right there. Good. It ain't never pretty at first. Never going to ask her to do it back up today. That'll come maybe in a week. We really need to get this lateral working good for us before we add 2 reins. We'll do this a couple more times. Maybe get her trotting around here one more time, and I think that'll be a pretty good lesson. So right here, I'm just going to ask her to bend. I'm going to get my spanker here. I may slide my leg back first and ask her to get off my leg before I get my spanker out. Ask her to get off my leg, which she's doing good. I may ask her to be a little bit more snappier about it. Right there. Now Laramie's got a whole lot of resistance in it. It's a natural type resistance too. I know that don't make sense to the common ear, but it's not a resistance that's been made by man. It's a natural resistance in her, and she's going to be right there. She got soft. Not going to do a lot of this. I don't like to make it too much at first. Right there, she got a little bit soft. Step her out of the tracks and get her this way. Just get this neck good and loosened up. I don't mind to give her a jolt or 2 there. Just a reminder to get soft on that. Right there. Ask her to go this way or bend this way. Get soft. Come around this way. She has to learn to get a little bit snappier about it. Right there. So I'm just going to ask her to move around this pen with me a little bit more. Carry this bit on a nice loose rein. Right there is good. A little attitude with it too. That's all right. She needs to move off my legs. We'll ask her again here. Right there, got a little buck. A little throw up, not a little buck, but that's all right. It has to come. I knew that's what would. I knew I'd get more flap out of her the more I ask her to work. There we go. Ask her to come to this middle. Maybe get a lope out of it this way. Pretty good stuff. That's all right. I like it. Now, that's the beginnings of teaching a horse how to obey, be disciplined, however you want to put it, to give the pressure in a bridle. So I think that'll be a pretty good session for today. I appreciate y'all watching, and God bless.